Welcome to AI Dispatch, your channel for the latest AI videos on YouTube. If you don't want to miss these updates, please like, subscribe, and share. This video features Jeetu Patel, President and Chief Product Officer at Cisco, interviewed on Lenny's podcast. His analysis dismantles two widely held assumptions: that artificial intelligence threatens employment and that effective leadership requires private criticism. He argues instead that demographic mathematics make AI essential for civilization survival, and that trust-based organizations demand public friction. We'll examine the data and reasoning behind these claims. Jeetu Patel leads a 30,000-person organization at Cisco, steering the company's infrastructure positioning for AI compute clusters. His operational decisions directly shape how data centers spanning hundreds of kilometers function as unified systems. His perspective merges executive strategy with technical architecture at a scale few leaders navigate. The dominant concern surrounding artificial intelligence centers on labor displacement, autonomous systems eliminating jobs and creating economic disruption. Jeetu Patel constructs the inverse argument using demographic data rather than employment statistics. Global birth rates are collapsing. The trajectory points toward a population structure where 60% are elderly, supported by a contracting workforce. His mathematical assertion, without AI compensating for this productivity gap, society will lack the physical human capacity to provide care, maintain infrastructure, or sustain economic systems. The technology isn't arriving to displace workers. It's arriving as the only mechanism capable of preventing systemic collapse when the working age population becomes insufficient. During the discussion, this framing of AI as a precisely timed solution to demographic crisis prompted an unexpected tangent. Jeetu and the host explored the statistical improbability of such timing, with Jeetu half-seriously suggesting it reinforces the simulation hypothesis. He acknowledged that with each passing year, the coincidences accumulating in technological and societal development make the idea harder to dismiss outright. Patel's leadership philosophy directly contradicts established management doctrine. Business education universally teaches praise publicly, criticize privately. He rejects this framework as fundamentally counterproductive. His reasoning targets the incentive structures this approach creates. Private criticism, even when well-intentioned, devolves into diluted feedback obscured by diplomatic language. Simultaneously, public praise for mediocre outcomes constructs a false performance narrative where metrics appear healthy while underlying problems metastasize. He maintains that organizations built on genuine trust must surface critique in shared forums. Public friction exposes flawed assumptions to collective problem-solving rather than concealing them behind closed doors. The objective is not comfort, it is velocity through clarity. Jeetu's communication philosophy has biographical roots worth noting. As a teenager, earning slightly above $2 per hour at Sizzler, he confronted a stutter that could have ended his ability to work in customer-facing roles. He was forced to develop techniques to communicate clearly and even engage guests with humor. That formative struggle embedded a conviction. Ambiguous communication is a structural liability, not a social nicety. This early experience directly informs his insistence on transparent, unfiltered organizational dialogue. Patel introduces another framework inversion regarding organizational scale. Standard analysis holds that managing 90,000 employees presents exponentially greater complexity than running a 3-person startup. He asserts the opposite. Resource scarcity is a harder problem than resource allocation. A startup requiring 5 people to execute a pivot faces an existential crisis. If it employs only 3, it must secure capital or cease operations. A corporation with 90,000 employees facing the same requirement executes a routine reallocation. The existential risk at scale is not survival, it is information degradation across hierarchical layers. This connects directly to his concept of packet loss in organizational communication, borrowed from network engineering. In data transmission, packet loss describes information disappearing between transmission points. Patel applies this to corporate structure. When a CEO delegates strategic narrative to marketing teams, and that narrative cascades through 7 management layers before reaching engineers, the message suffers degradation identical to corrupted data packets. The why behind decisions becomes lost. His solution: leaders must transmit strategy directly to the operational edge, bypassing intermediary layers to preserve signal integrity. There's a specific origin story behind this principle. A board member explicitly warned Patel that delegating Cisco's strategic narrative would result in packet loss as it filtered through management hierarchies. Patel internalized the advice and began delivering the company's story himself. An unexpected benefit emerged. The discipline of articulating strategy directly to frontline teams forced him to simplify and clarify the business model in his own thinking. The act of direct communication became a tool for strategic refinement, not merely message distribution. Applying this logic to technology itself, Patel makes a startling admission about his own capabilities. The assumption is that executives at infrastructure companies possess deep domain expertise accumulated over decades. Patel states explicitly there is zero chance he could perform his current role without AI assistance. When he assumed responsibility for unfamiliar technical portfolios, he used tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude as learning accelerators, absorbing complex domains at speeds impossible through traditional methods. This isn't a productivity enhancement. It represents a fundamental shift in what executive competence requires. During this segment, the interviewer probed how he operationalized AI for learning. Patel explained that these tools enabled him to compress years of domain acquisition into weeks, a capability that directly enabled his transition into his current role. He then noted that Cisco is approaching the release of its first product written entirely by AI, underscoring that this isn't theoretical speculation but operational reality. This validates his broader assertion. We must abandon the metaphor of AI as a tool. Tools are passive instruments. Patel insists AI functions as a teammate. When Cisco treated AI as a passive resource, development stagnated. The psychological reframing to teammate added to the roster fundamentally altered coding output and product velocity. The distinction is not semantic, it is operational. Patel's perspective on AI infrastructure exposes a physical constraint that contradicts assumptions about cloud computing's abstract nature. Most conceptualize the cloud as ethereal storage. The reality, AI training clusters are rewriting the physics of networking. Modern models cannot fit on individual chips or server racks. They require thousands of GPUs operating as a unified system. Cisco is engineering networks where data centers separated by 800 kilometers function as a single coherent computer. This demands optics and data transport operating at speeds that render traditional internet infrastructure obsolete. The network has become the computer, and the world lacks sufficient power and bandwidth to sustain this architecture. Infrastructure, not algorithms, is the binding constraint. Patel grounds this abstract infrastructure discussion in human stakes through a healthcare example. He recounts a conversation with a customer who stated bluntly, when infrastructure fails in medical settings, people die, dialysis treatments halt, surgeries cannot proceed, critical care systems go offline. This mentality that infrastructure failures have mortality consequences shaped his approach at Cisco, where the operating principle is that you rarely receive credit when systems function, but you always receive blame when they fail. It's a worldview where reliability isn't a feature, it's the entire value proposition. For professionals navigating this transition, Patel's experience offers a specific directive. Do not delegate your understanding of these systems to technical specialists. Even the president of a major technology company had to reconstruct his competencies using AI as a learning partner. If you are not engaging in the same process, your accumulated expertise is depreciating in real time. If you're interested in the video featured in this episode, click the link below to watch the original.